Hi, Algebra 1 students. This video is for section 7-1, and you're going to want to start on page 206 in your student journal. The first thing I'm going to have you do is pause the video and copy everything but this table, okay? So, yeah, pause the video right now. And why don't you get this information in your notes? Okay, I'm going to assume you paused and you have this in your notes, and now I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So lots of vocab in 7-1. Sounds overwhelming at first, but it's not bad, trust me. So the first term we have here is a monomial. So think of mono means one. So a monomial just has one term. A term is just a number and a variable, or maybe just a number, or I'll add another one, that's maybe just a variable. So these are all examples of monomials. The degree of a monomial, we wrote down the sum of the exponents of the variables in the monomial. So if I look back at these examples, the degree only comes from the variables. Remember, if you don't see an exponent, every number and every variable has an exponent. If you don't see it, it's an invisible one. So the degree of this monomial would be 1. The degree of this monomial would be 1, because that's the sum of the exponents. So a polynomial just means, poly means many. So a polynomial just means many monomials added or subtracted together. So for example, this is a polynomial. This is a polynomial. Now, I want you to, at this point, pause the video and go ahead and put this chart in your notes. So hopefully you've paused and put this chart in. So this just kind of says, hey, we got polynomials. That's the overarching term. Monomials, binomials, and trinomials are just different types of polynomials. So polynomial means many. Think poly means many. Monomial has one term. A binomial has two terms. And a trinomial has three terms. Right? A bicycle has two wheels. A tricycle has three wheels. Okay, so up here, polynomial includes everything. Binomial has two monomials or two terms. For example, this has two terms, 2x plus 4. This is a monomial, this is a monomial. If I have two of them attached by addition or subtraction, then I have a binomial. Trinomial is three terms, 1, 2, 3. Terms, again, are separated by addition or subtraction. Okay, that is it on this page. So turn over to, wait a minute, page 207 for me. Looks like that. Okay, little more definition of some vocab on this page, although some of it we already talked about. So this says a polynomial is a monomial or a sum of monomials. So we're just adding the monomials together. Each monomial is called a term, right? I said that when I was doing the description on the other page. A polynomial with two terms is a binomial. A polynomial with three terms is a trinomial. Couple examples here. Two terms, remember, separated by pluses or minuses. 1, 2, 3 terms. Binomial, trinomial. Okay, so now we want to think about the degree of a polynomial and writing it in standard form and finding the leading coefficient. So the degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of its terms. So we're going to look at all the terms, and we're going to find the greatest degree. Well, this term has a degree 2 because the exponent is 2. This term has a degree 1 because the exponent is 1. So the greatest is this one. So the degree of this entire trinomial would be 2. So standard form. A polynomial is in standard form when the exponents of the terms decrease from left to right. So this trinomial is in standard form because the biggest exponent is a 2, and then a 1, and then the constant term, which doesn't have a variable, so it doesn't have an exponent. So when we're putting it in standard form, we want to find the biggest exponent. We want to put that guy in front. The biggest exponent is always going to be your line leader. And then let's look down at this example. The coefficient attached to that variable with the biggest exponent is the leading coefficient. So it makes sense that after you put it in standard form, you put your biggest exponent first. So we have exponent of 3, exponent of 2, exponent of 1, and then constant term at the end. So this is in standard form. Once it's in standard form, the leading coefficient is the first number you come to. It's the line leader, right? So the name makes a lot of sense. Got to be in standard form first, then you find your leading coefficient, then you find your degree. So the degree and the leading coefficient are always going to be on that first term once you put it in standard form. So let's look down at the bottom at some examples here. So this says find the degree. These are all monomials. So for the degree, remember, I just want to look at the variables. All right, so for this one, my variable is s. I don't see an exponent, but I'm going to put in that invisible 1. So the degree of this monomial is going to be 1, because that's the sum of all the exponents. This one, number 3, doesn't have any variables, so the degree is going to be 0. Remember, we're only looking at variables, x, y, r, etc., when we're finding or determining the degree. Now let's look at one that has multiple variables. So this has 3 variables, a, b, and c. I'm going to write in those invisible exponents, because remember, every variable and every number has an exponent. If you don't see it, it's that invisible 1. So the degree of this one is going to be 1 plus 1 plus 1, or 3. Sum of the exponents attached to the variables. Let's look at one more. Here I have r to the second power, s to the third power, t, put in that invisible coefficient. If you don't put that invisible coefficient in, you're probably going to miss it. So the degree of this monomial is going to be 2 plus 3 plus 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. So the degree there is 6. Okay, turn the page one more time for me. Now, what we're going to do in these is we're going to do 3 things at once. We are going to find, so we're going to do it for 11 and 12. So I want you to write over here, I want you to write standard form. The first thing we're going to do is put these in standard form, and we're going to do it for 11 and 12. And then I want you to write leading coefficient. coefficient. We're going to do that for 11 and 12. Then we're going to find the degree of the whole polynomial. These are polynomials because they all have multiple terms. And then the last thing is we're going to classify it. So that means we're going to decide if it's a monomial, a binomial, or a trinomial. Okay, so let's look at this first one. I'm going to look and I'm going to find the biggest exponent, 8. So this term has to come first. 6x to the 8th power. Biggest exponent first. Does not matter what these numbers are. Biggest exponent first. This guy is going to come second. So that is standard form. Once it's in standard form, my degree and leading coefficient are going to come right from this first term. My leading coefficient, remember coefficient is a constant multiplied by a variable. So my leading coefficient is 6. Degree is an exponent. So my degree is 8. Classify it, I just need to count the terms. It has 2 terms, so it's a binomial. Think 2 wheels on a bicycle, binomial. Okay, let's do this again. Again, when I'm putting it in standard form, I'm just looking at exponents, not the coefficients, just the exponents. I'm going to put my invisible exponent on that one. So exponent of 2, exponent of 1, exponent of 4. There's my biggest exponent. That has to go in front. It's positive, so I'm just going to write f to the 4th. Next biggest exponent is 2. Positive, so plus f to the 2nd power. Last term is going to be minus 2f to the 1st power. Okay, now again, leading coefficient and degree are going to come from that first term once I've put it in standard form. So the leading coefficient, well, if you don't see one, it's 1. It's that invisible 1. So the leading coefficient on that one is 1. The degree is 4, always from that first term. Coefficient is the number multiplied. Degree is, maybe you want to put a little reminder here, degree is the exponent. Exponent. And then classify, this one has 1, 2, 3 terms. 1, 2, 3 terms, so that's a trinomial. Okay? I'm going to finish 7.1 in a second video because we kind of start doing something a little different on the bottom of this page.